What's going on, everybody? Resale Rabbit here. So I am at ASD in Las Vegas. It's March 2024 and I'm going to be speaking in a little bit, and I recorded the whole thing so you can see it. Hopefully this music isn't a copyright issue. So I had to get away from the music because YouTube copyright. So I'm going to be the second speaker. I was up on stage going over the tech and everything with the woman hosting it, lady from ASD. So I've got this cheap tripod for my recording, and then we got the professionals over here with all the equipment.
We got Resale Rabbit over here.
Market Week, and we are so excited to have you. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are focusing on closeout and liquidated product line. All right, without further ado, we're gonna get started right now. Let's see, John.
Alrighty. So my job's not done yet. I gotta be introducing the one and only Resale Rabbit. If you guys are familiar with Mr. John here, he is a reselling legend at this point. So personal backstory, I used to watch this guy on YouTube, and pretty awesome. So I know he's a very knowledgeable person. He does great things on eBay, does great things in just reselling, and he has a lot of experience. So you guys get your questions ready because he's about to drop some knowledge. So here's John.
Thanks for having me. So I always like to start out these things asking, anybody here follows me on YouTube? Show of hands. Got a couple out there. If you don't yet follow me on YouTube, if you want to take a second, go ahead, pull out your phone, subscribe. I don't get paid for these. It's Resale Rabbit. Yeah, it does say my name on there. So today we're going to be talking about tackling liquidation. This is a very beginner's guide. So if you've never done any liquidation before, this will give you a little crash course on what to expect, some tips and tricks along the way. So how I got started, I began selling at flea markets in 2011. In 2012, I started selling on Amazon, fulfillment by merchant, so I was shipping it out myself. And I left my corporate job in 2013. Also in 2013, my claim to fame, I was traveling all around the US in a minivan, buying items at thrift stores and sending them into Amazon FBA. And that's when I started my YouTube channel. In 2016, I leased a 7,000 square foot warehouse because I wanted to start getting into liquidation, and it's kind of hard to bring pallets into hotel rooms. I've done it, but you get some weird looks. In 2020, I expanded to 16,000 square feet. So we've got a much larger warehouse now, and we're still busting at the seams. One thing I learned is it doesn't matter how big your warehouse is, you're never gonna have enough room. My current income streams, I own JLN Distributing. This is our wholesale side of the business where we sell pallets. It's a very small part of our business. Titletown Auction Company, we're a full service auction company. We handle estates, business liquidation, consignments, so on and so forth. The bread and butter is Wisconsin Liquidation Center. If you're familiar with the bin store concept, this is what we do, but we're only open 5 times a year. We try to open once every quarter for 2 weeks, and then we sneak in another one around Christmas. And then we sell on eBay as well. We're also getting back into Amazon for the first time in several years and branching out into Walmart, but those are very small as we're just starting out there. So let's talk about the different types of liquidation. You've got case pack overstock. When you get case pack product, this is product that's never been in a retail store. It's coming straight from the distribution center. Typically, you're gonna have some volume in the SKUs because it's gonna still be in the manufacturer cases. It's all gonna be new. The boxes you can expect to be pretty pristine. Then you got shelf pulls. Shelf pulls are product that's been in the store, it's been on the shelves, and the retailer decided to pull it for one reason or another. Shelf pulls are going to have some light distressed packaging just from being out on the shelves. You might have some open packages from people in the stores who decided to tear it open. Maybe on rare occasions, something where part of the product was stolen, but it's pretty rare. We got out of season merchandise. I love seasonal merchandise because I've got the space to store it. I love getting Christmas merchandise right about now, actually, around March. You get Halloween around December, you get your summer stuff as it gets cold, you get your winter stuff as it gets warm. You get it really cheap if you're getting it just out of season, and it's great to store it long term. Box damage product. So everything this far is generally stuff that the retailers couldn't sell. With box damage product, you're getting the better stuff because the boxes got damaged and they don't want to put that on their shelves. Now you can get some of the crappier merchandise in your box damage loads, but generally you're going to find some good stuff in there. But just because the box is damaged doesn't mean the product is perfectly fine. It could also be like a water damaged product or something that was seriously damaged and a forklift drove right through it. So you're going to have some hit and miss when you're looking at those. Customer returns is the one most people associate with the liquidation business. In my experience, I find that about 90% of customer returns are sellable. Sellable meaning not necessarily new, not necessarily pristine, could be heavily used, could be missing a charger, a remote, but we can still sell it. It's not going in the garbage. And lastly, you've got salvage merchandise. Salvage is a word that's often used to describe any type of liquidation. But within the liquidation industry, salvage will describe products that are defective, parts or repair. You're usually getting them super cheap because they are someone's trash, essentially. But if you can repair, especially things like appliances, it can be very beneficial to you. So typically you're looking at either truckloads or individual pallets, and there are pros and cons to each. With full truckloads, they can be shipped direct. You can get it straight from Target or Amazon or where have you, and bring it straight to your warehouse. You're not getting individual pallets from the actual facility, from the retailer. Truckloads are going to have a lower freight cost per unit because it's cheaper to ship 30 pallets on one load than one pallet 30 times. You're going to find full truckloads can be deeper in some SKUs, so you have to be ready for that. If a retailer is trying to get rid of a certain product or a certain line, they're going to have a lot of it on every single pallet. And lastly, it's going to be specific to one retailer. You're not getting a full truckload with some Home Depot and some Amazon, some Walmart if you're getting it direct from the retailer. It's just going to be Amazon, it's just going to be Walmart or what have you. With pallets, they're going to always come from a third party. So somebody brought it into their warehouse and they're breaking it up and selling it by the pallet. You're less likely to get overloaded in a single SKU. Of course, it does happen, but when you're getting one pallet rather than 24, 26, or 30, you're less likely to have a whole bunch of the same item. You've got a lower upfront cost because buying a $500 pallet, say $400 in freight, you're $900 out of pocket. Buying a $15,000 truckload plus $1,500 freight, a lot more out of pocket. However, you've got a much higher freight cost per unit because, like I said, you could be looking at $400 for a single pallet just for your freight, whereas $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 for a full truck of 24, 26 pallets. Truckloads typically come manifested and unmanifested. A manifest is a list of what everything on that load is, gives you an idea of what to expect. I hear all the time people will say, I won't buy loads if they don't have a manifest. And I strongly disagree with that statement. Unmanifested loads can be a bit more of a gamble because you don't know anything about it. You know the retailer, maybe you know the condition, that's about it. Beyond that, it can be anything and everything. But manifested loads are more expensive. And the reason is because you're essentially paying somebody, the labor, to create a list of what's on that load. You may also be paying double freight because if the retailer isn't making that list, you're paying to ship it to the third-party broker, paying their employee to make the list, and then you're paying to ship it to yourself. And that can definitely add up. So the 80-20 rule is something that I've experienced personally in my business. 20% of the items on, doesn't matter if it's a pallet or a truckload, are going to recoup most of the costs. They're typically going to be easy. Your brand name tools, your electronics, your high-end clothes, easy stuff to make most of your money back. The profit lives in the 80% though. The remaining 80% of the load is going to be harder to sell. It's not going to be that fun, easy, sexy stuff. It's going to be the boring, tough to sell items. Your business will succeed if you can find a way to sell that 80%. Because remember, in liquidation, we're selling stuff that other retailers couldn't sell. If it's easy stuff, it's going to be expensive. Why would they have a problem selling DeWalt tools or iPads? You got to expect the harder to sell stuff. You got to find creative ways to sell it. Arranging your own freight is very important to know in this business. And I know a lot of people here are seasoned veterans, and you know how to arrange freight. But for those of you who are new, you might find liquidators who will deal with the freight for you. But it's a lot easier on them if you're handling the freight. And you want it to be easier. You want them to like you, because when those really good loads come through, those unicorn loads, you want them to call you, not the other company that's making it easier for them. So for less than truckload, this is like an individual pallet or a couple of pallets. When it's shipped, it's typically going to bounce from hub to hub. It's like shipping something UPS. It's going to go from the pickup location, get unloaded somewhere, put on another truck, move somewhere else, unloaded somewhere, put on another truck, etc. If you have a commercial address when you're doing LTL, it's going to be cheaper. And storage units, a lot of people talk about storage units as a loophole. It's not a loophole. There's a surcharge for storage units as well. You have liftgate services and residential availability when you're going LTL as well. LTL is usually the cheaper option if you're shipping 10 pallets or less. It's not always the case, but usually when you're in that area, that's about the line. And we use uship.com to handle our LTL freight. For full truckloads, it's often required by the vendor that you handle your own freight. It's not always the case, but I've seen it more often than not. You can get direct line shipping with full truckloads. It's not going from hub to hub. They're closing the doors at the pickup area, driving straight to you. So it's usually going to be quicker too. Typically with full truckloads, there's no liftgate or residential delivery. It has to go to a commercial location, and you have to have a forklift or a dock to unload. And it's usually cheapest if you're going 10 or more pallets. I've had many loads where I was shipping 10, 12, 15 pallets, nowhere near filling the truck, but I still went the full truckload route because it ends up being quite a bit cheaper. And we use Uber Freight for this. Uber Freight recently launched an LTL platform. I have no experience with it. I haven't tried it yet, but it's something to consider. Here's an example of uship.com. It shows the prices up front, so you can just pick one, pay for it. A lot of people think of uship as like the show Shipping Wars, where you post a picture of it and they bid on the price. When you're shipping freight with uship, you get an upfront price. And here's Uber Freight. It shows a calendar with the prices as well. If you want more info on shipping, I actually have a YouTube video from a few months ago that really dives deep in on that. So scams are something to really worry about in this industry. They are a huge problem. And the reason is because when you're buying a truckload of product, your payments are typically 5 figures. It's a lot easier for the scammers because they don't need to go after a lot of people to make a lot of money. Payments are usually made via wire transfer in this industry too, and when you're sending a wire, it's like paying cash. You can't do a chargeback, you can't cancel it. They have the money, you're never getting it back, which is really nice for the scammers. There's also a large increase of new buyers in this industry, and with that, when you're new at something, you don't know everything. You're still learning, and it's very easy for people to trick you. Brokers can also be really tough to verify. This, I've noticed, changes over the years. More and more brokers, they're getting an online presence, a Facebook page, a following. But there are still a lot of brokers that have no website. It's just a guy in a warehouse with a cell phone. So it can be really hard to verify whether or not they're a legitimate broker. Some things to look for to see if you've got a scammer on your hands. If the price is suspiciously low. Remember during the pandemic when the PS5 console was impossible to find? I saw people selling pallets of them. And they were selling them for like 500 bucks. Very obvious sign of a scammer is if the price is just suspiciously low. The freight, if they say it's free shipping or shipping's like 25 bucks, it's probably a scammer. The cheapest I have ever shipped an individual pallet was about 80 bucks, and that was like 20 miles away. If you see $20, $30 shipping or free shipping, it's probably gonna be a scammer. There are instances where someone may do free shipping for the first 300 miles or free shipping within, if you're in the same state. But just across the board free shipping, I wouldn't trust it. They use WhatsApp or Telegram. Other countries may be different, but here in the US, it seems to be primarily scammers or people who are regularly communicating with people overseas who use these apps. So if someone doesn't have a phone number, they have a WhatsApp, my red flags would be ringing. And this one's more anecdotal, but I've noticed a lot of scammers, their Facebook name is 2 first names. I couldn't tell you why. Ricky Bobby. What happened here? There we go. Don't be afraid to get on the plane. When you're spending $15,000, $20,000 on a load, an extra $800 for a flight, a rental car, a hotel is pretty insignificant. And that, going dark here, that gives you the opportunity to inspect the product and verify that the broker has a physical presence. I had a couple years ago a company reach out to me. They reached out to me and said, hey, we want you to buy our product. It's gonna cost $12,000, we'll send you 2 truckloads. And my bells were ringing. This seems really sketchy. They reached out to me. Why were they reaching out to me? So I sent the guy a text after some discussion and said, hey, are you free tomorrow? And I said, yeah. I said, I will be at your warehouse. And I flew down there and I met with them and everything was legitimate. Everything was on the up and up. But that gave me that peace of mind for a small price to know that I'm dealing with someone legitimate. So the types of loads that I love retail packaged product. Retail packaged product is easier for the customers to see what it is. You know, it has the picture of the item, it has all of the specs and details on there. The package is what sells the product. Whereas your online packaged product is in a brown box or a poly bag. The website is what advertises the product. Well, I don't have the website in front of me. I'm selling it to a customer. So I love retail packaged product. Drugstore loads. I love drugstore loads for eBay. You get a lot of small items that are higher value, easy to ship. So look for Walgreens, CVS. Does Rite Aid even still exist anymore? Rite Aid loads. Freight salvage loads are a lot of fun too. You can get some weird stuff on freight salvage loads. These are loads where maybe the truck was in an accident or the trailer had a leak or something. There might be some damage to some of the product, but not all of it. And you get them super cheap. You also find a lot of industrial stuff, which can be very pricey and usually pretty impervious to damage. And they're pretty inexpensive. I've found freight loads, just pallets, for 25 bucks before, and there was thousands of dollars of industrial product on it. I bought a pallet for, I think, 75 bucks. It was destined to go to Starbucks. There were 2 of these big brass valves I sold for like 400 bucks each on Amazon, on eBay. And then I don't like online packaged product. I touched on that a minute ago. It's really hard to tell what it is. Usually it's just a brown box, a poly bag, and has a sticker with the title, and that's it. So some things that have worked for me over the years, the bin store model. I love the bin store model. It is so much fun. It moves so much volume. We actually just finished one of our warehouse sales yesterday. Like, we closed up and I got on a plane to come here. I'm exhausted. And we moved like 25,000 units in 8 days. I love the bin store model so much. I love going to low traffic in-person auctions. I typically don't deal with online auctions for liquidation because you're bidding against everybody and their brother all over the country. I go to the in-person ones. There's one in Georgia that I actually fly to about every 4 to 6 weeks. And especially if there's low traffic, you can get some great deals in those. I like building my own loads. I'll do this every so often if I have a broker, like Damien, for instance, I don't know where he is, and there he is, who carries a whole bunch of different brands. They might have Home Depot, Walmart, Walgreens, Amazon, etc. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna pick out the pallets that I want. That way I can ensure that I can get as much of that 20% as possible on my load. And I'm not getting overloaded with too much from one retailer. And then I also like selling with local auctions. I liked it so much that I started one myself. Things that haven't worked for me is traditional brick and mortar. I don't know if it's me or my location, but I've tried it twice and it didn't work for me. Granted, one of them, I bought the business in April of 2020. You have an idea of where that one went. Single channel sales. If you are just selling in one area, you're only selling on eBay, you're only doing the flea markets, you're only doing Amazon, you're gonna struggle. You need to have multiple channels to move the product. You're gonna find, like those big brass valves that I just mentioned that I sold for 400 each. If I put those on Marketplace or I put those in the warehouse sale, they wouldn't have sold. Maybe I would have got 5 or 10 bucks for them. But having those extra channels is invaluable to this business. Apparel and shoes. In my area, nobody wants them. I can't get $2 for a brand new pair of shoes. Maybe it's different in other places. I would urge you to try it, but for me, it did not work. And then online packaging, which I touched on a bit earlier. So some sales channels to consider. I mentioned having multiple channels to sell the product. We got online marketplaces, eBay, Amazon, Etsy, Poshmark, Walmart, so on and so forth. You can develop your own online store. You can start a brick and mortar store. Just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. Actually, a buddy of mine is here. I don't see him. Steve, he's got a brick and mortar store, and he does really well with it. He's got like an old Sears, and just the amount of volume he moves out of there is great. So it doesn't work for me, but it could work for you. Flea markets are a great option. If you have an antique booth, doesn't need to be antiques in the antique malls anymore. You go to any antique mall, you're gonna find people selling liquidation product. Garage sales, I know people who have garage sales every single weekend, and they'll make $3-4 grand in a weekend doing their garage sales. And that's a great way to kind of branch in as a part-time liquidation seller. There's always Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, local auctions, consignment shops. I want to touch on that for a minute. We've got a lot of consignment shops in my area. They deal with furniture, home furnishings, decor, things like that. Anytime I get nice lamps, I bring them there. They may take 50%, but I can't give away lamps. I'm selling it for 10 bucks, whereas they can get 50, 60 bucks for it. And then I'll get half that, which still ends up being more. So look into consignment shops, especially if you're getting higher end furniture. I've heard of clothing consignment shops. That could be something worth looking into. So that's all I got. I'm gonna open the floor up to questions, comments, insults, cheesy jokes, whatever you got for me.
All right, guys, come on. Questions. This man is very knowledgeable, and he wants to answer your questions. That was me. I'm sorry. No questions?
No questions? In the back over here. Storage auctions. I do buy storage auctions. I just bought 2 last week. It's very similar to liquidation, where you've got to have the multiple channels to sell it. You're going to get a lot of great stuff and a lot of trash. Did you have any specific questions regarding storage auctions?
Where would be the auction locations?
So every state is going to be different in their laws, but in most states, they require a storage facility needs to post an ad in the legal notice section of your local newspaper. That's the place to look. They're going to have all of the auctions posted there because they're selling a lien. There are websites like Storage Treasures and Bid 13. I think there are a few others out there that are good for online storage auctions. I prefer in-person ones, but less and less are in person every year. So, any other questions?
Questions.
Right up here. On eBay, the question was if we do on eBay mostly auctions or buy it now. We almost always do fixed price, buy it now listings. I've been on eBay for 10-ish years now. I think I've done 2 auctions on eBay. So if I have something super unique, super rare, I might do an auction, but generally I'm doing a fixed price. If I'm questioning the price, I'll price it high and have a best offer option.
Mr. Tim.
Quick question on the eBay sales. I do a lot of eBay sales, but I start running into scammers quite a bit on it, where you send them a nice product, you normally see expensive products. Do you have tips on how to try to counter that? Because eBay loves to side on their side.
I've dealt with a few scammers here and there. One thing that I've noticed is scammers target newer sellers or sellers that don't have a lot of volume. There's not a whole lot you can do to prevent that other than waiting it out and time growing. But when you're selling on eBay, take pictures of all angles of the item. Take a picture of the serial number if it has it. You want to have very detailed photos so you can prove if something comes back that it wasn't the item that you sent. With regards to buyers that have no feedback, personally, I'll still sell to them because everybody's got to start somewhere. But generally, your scammers are going to be newer accounts like that. So if you're really worried about it, especially on higher dollar items, you may want to set some parameters to block certain buyers. Or if someone sends you an offer on an item and they have no feedback, maybe just reject the offer. Over here.
What kind of experience do you have with online auctions? Is there sites that you like?
As far as buying or selling?
Selling, other than on eBay, like high bid auction and things like that.
So I own Titletown Auction Company, and we handle auctions mostly on consignment, and we use HiBid as our platform. I know Bid Wrangler is a popular one that a lot of people use. ProxyBid is popular. I don't like ProxyBid as a buyer. It's very clunky, but Bid Wrangler and HiBid are probably the top two. Way in the back.
Hold on, I'm coming for you because I want to hear it. Who had the question in the back? All right, you're gonna make me work today.
Getting your steps in today.
You know it. All right, first introduce yourself and then go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, I'm Ryan with Zocos, and I was gonna ask, have you found, or how reliable have you found Uber Freight to be, especially with like time-sensitive loads that have a definite pickup date? Have you ever had any issues in regards to timing or availability?
You know, I've found Uber Freight to be more reliable than Uber, like just picking you up and driving you somewhere. Occasionally they might be a little late, a little early, but most of the time they're right on the mark. Uber Freight does have an option where you can pay a little bit more if you have a really time-sensitive load to ensure that it's going to be on time. But I've never used it. They've always been, you know, within the 5-hour window that I've needed. So.
All right. Any other questions, or can we let John? Oh, hold
one
on, we
right
got a
up here.
question.
So you were talking about the places that you take like lamps and things like that. What was that called again, and how's a good way to find those places?
If you look up just on Google in your area, consignment stores.
Consignment stores, okay.
The one that I use, I'll tell you right now, is called Consign It. They're obviously just a local store in Green Bay, but if you want to look them up, you can get an idea of what a business like that would look like. We had one up here.
Hold on, I'm coming. Hold on, we want to hear you in the back.
On the 80-20 rule that you talked about, I was wondering your thoughts on finding a balance between trying to squeeze out as much profit you can out of your purchase and knowing when to move on to the next to keep everything fresh.
I just kind of wing it, to be honest. I try to be as efficient as I can. I'm not going to hold product forever. If I truly can't move an item, I'm just going to dump it, get rid of it. And that's where my auction, or if you can find an auction company, really comes in handy, because I can just, even if I get $2 for this pallet, I don't care, it's gone, I don't have to deal with it. But you're getting a lot of that 80% that you're going to struggle with, but you'll find creative ways, trust me. It can be fun sometimes, it's like a puzzle.
Oh, we got another question over here. Hold tight. Okay.
I just want to find out what's the best way to buy shoes and apparels from the resellers?
It depends where you're selling it. Target is fantastic for shoes. You get a lot of volume and it's cheap. But if you're selling it online, it's going to be a really tough sell. It's better for like a local market. If you're looking for brand name stuff for online, to be honest, if you find a pallet of it, you're going to be paying a lot for it, a high percentage, just because that high dollar stuff, the easy to sell stuff, they don't leave a lot of meat on the bone for it. A lot of times it's intended as a loss leader, so you might actually take a loss on it, but you have it to draw people in. As far as specifics on finding that, I don't really know how to help you with that. I don't really sell shoes, especially the higher end ones. Find somebody, what I would recommend is find somebody who brings in target loads and sells it to the consumer, because they're gonna get so overloaded with the same SKU of shoes. There are times where I'll get 2 pallets of the same shoe, 3,000 units. I can't sell 3,000 units of the same shoe, so I'm gonna dump the remainder cheap to someone like you. So look for bin stores, especially bin stores that have just too much of the same product. That would be my advice.
All right, we got another question over here.
Hi, regarding eBay sales, what would you say your percentage of make offer is? I find that a lot of times when you turn your offers on, you're gonna have people that make an offer, don't pay, and they just do it for the thrill.
eBay just fixed this. Now when you make an offer on eBay, you have to actually agree to purchase, have your credit card info. So if I accept someone's offer, it automatically charges their card. But as far as percentages of offers, I have offers on everything I've listed on eBay. I would say maybe 60% of items sell via offer. Usually, the ones I accept at least are within 10% of my price. But I get a lot of like $100 items, someone will offer me 15 bucks for it. You can set parameters to auto reject those. I don't, because I like to see the offers. It gives me an idea on how I have something priced, but it can be frustrating. But as far as submitting an offer and not paying, that's kind of solved. But before that, in my head, when I accept an offer, it's not sold. It's not sold until it's paid for, so I don't really think much about it.
All right. Oh, hold on.
Jerry!
I'm coming back for you. I'm coming back.
Come back.
So they told me that I should share this. So when he was talking about the returns on eBay, I figured out something. I've been selling on eBay for 10 years, and I've figured out, like, the last 50 people that have probably said that an item was defective, I'll say, you know, I don't accept returns, but I'll go ahead and accept this since it was defective. But I'll add in there, go ahead and make sure that the serial number of the one that we shipped you matches the one that we shipped, you know, the whatever. The one, make sure that the serial number matches the one that we shipped to you. And I'll never hear from them again. Out of probably 50, I think I've only gotten one return for that reason. And most of the items don't even have a serial number, but I never hear another message from them ever again.
Interesting. My theory on that is...
It wouldn't be clothing, no.
My theory...
Well, yeah, because clothing wouldn't have serial numbers, but on like the other stuff, yeah.
My theory on that is, since you don't offer returns, that they just change their mind and they want to return it, and they're using that as an excuse. I have free returns on all of my listings, and I haven't really had an issue with that. And I think it's because if you don't want it, I'll take it back, so you don't need to come up with a lie.
All right, we've got one last question, and then we're going to close it up. But here you
Best
go,
for
make it
last.
good.
Hey, how's it going? In terms of liquidation, what's like the biggest load you've taken in, and then how are you able to efficiently process the huge influx of inventory?
I would say the biggest individual load that I took in was 200 or 300 gas coin-op dryers about this time last year. And they were hand-loaded on the truck, and after we unloaded the first truck, I said, no, I don't want to do this. And I just liquidated them off to someone else and direct shipped them. Because I don't know if you've ever moved coin-op dryers, or if you've ever moved 100 of them, but it's terrible. So that's all I've got today. So I appreciate you all.
Let's clap it up, ladies and gentlemen. The Resale Rabbit.
Don't forget to follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you can find Resale Rabbit.
Yes, follow the Resale Rabbit. You will learn a lot. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. All right, so up next, we have a logistics seminar. All right, so Kyle Graves will come up here soon. Is he ready? All right.
Good
but
job,
before
John.
we will.
So this is Stephanie with ASD. She's the one who kind of orchestrated this and invited me out here. And I just want to say thanks for the invite. And I want you guys to leave a comment below if you think she should invite me to the next one.
I'm saying yes, just based on what I saw here. He needs to come back, but I'll let you vote.
And maybe you guys can pay for the flight next time.
Oh, we're gonna try. You better vote. Help him out. Help him out.
All right, comment down below.